Sometimes our minds feel like overfilled inboxes. Too many thoughts, emotions, and half-finished stories waiting for our attention. We keep moving, hoping clarity will come if we just think harder. But often, what we really need isn't more thinking, it's space to listen. Today, we want to invite you into a simple but powerful practice: journaling.
In this episode, we'll explore why journaling works, what exactly happens when you put words on paper, and how this practice can calm your nervous system, rewire your thought patterns, and bring you closer to yourself. So, wherever you are, take a deep breath, grab a notebook if you can, and let's take a moment to pause together.
Yes, here comes journaling. Very honestly, one of my favorite techniques. Journaling to clear your head, to manage your thoughts, to express your feelings. Writing is an action. It helps getting things out of our head onto a paper, into a journal. But again, even though journaling sounds fancy, it is nothing more than taking any pen. Actually, the one that you see now is the perfect one, the one that is closest to you at this moment, and a piece of paper. Just start.
Let's start off with our first question. What really is journaling to you, and why do you think it's such a powerful tool for clarity?
Journaling is writing your thoughts down on a paper. Do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree.
Just write down what's on your head. Because oftentimes, when I sit down to write, I realize there wasn't even that much to say, it just felt like there was. In my head, everything seems like a blur. Half thoughts, emotions, worries, to-do lists. It's all tangled together, and it's creating this feeling of mental noise and pressure. The moment I start writing, even if it's just a few words, something shifts. And putting your thoughts on paper gives them shape and form. You can just start with a few scattered words or a single question. Because journaling isn't about writing beautifully, it's mostly about listening deeply to what's going on inside. It's about giving your inner world a voice and turning mental chaos into something you can hold, understand, and even start to change once you see it on the paper.
And I couldn't agree more. Sometimes, whenever we have that chatter in our mind, it overwhelms us. It's because we don't take the moment to pause and reflect what's actually happening in there. If you just write down the word, or maybe the thought, or the quote, or anything that's going through your mind, you're giving your body the opportunity to process it. How can busy professionals reconnect with themselves using journaling?
Yeah, this is a great question, because when we sit down to write, it might seem like a small thing, and I totally get that. But what's actually happening inside your brain is pretty remarkable, because the moment you start naming what you feel, your brain begins to calm. This act of writing, it activates areas in your prefrontal cortex. This is the part responsible for reflection and perspective, and it helps quiet down the amygdala, which is the stress center that fuels anxiety and overwhelm. So, in simple terms, when you write, you help your body move from emotional chaos to clarity.
What a fantastic answer. Take a sticky note and just write that emotion down or that word, just name it and put it in a little box, whether it's near your desk or anywhere else. That way you can process it later on if you don't have the time to sit down.
When you feel that there's so much going on inside your head and you want to remember it, just put everything that's in your head onto a piece of paper. Because once it's visible and kind of tangible, you can then move around, because while it's still in your head, it's just free floating and it's just creating the mental load that you're carrying. But once you see it once you see it organized, or once you know that you can actually count on your journal or the post-it note that it will remind you of this piece of information, then you don't need to actively keep it on top of your mind for you to make sure that you don't forget it.
I love that add-on. If you're keeping all those thoughts in your head, it's like a battery draining. So the more that you add to it, it's like drain your battery inside your brain. But if you take that moment to write it down, it's going to help either pause at that moment and then start rebuilding the energy instead of just adding on to it. Which leads me to my next question. So if a beginner asks you, how do I start journaling? What would you tell them?
Write your thoughts down on a paper and start from there. Name your feelings, name what you're going through, and simply start there.
I think sometimes we take a moment and we overcomplicate what journaling really means. I thought it was more, I have to sit down, I have to cut out time, I have to block time, I have to write down all my thoughts that happen throughout the day. So it felt a little overwhelming. And from what you heard in the discussion today, it can be as simple as writing your feeling on a sticky note, or it could be writing a phrase in a paper next to you, or you can definitely have your nice, beautiful journal and go. But one thing that we do want to call out is never judge yourself. You don't have to have perfect penmanship. You don't even have to read it back. It's just the process of getting it out there and getting it out on paper. And I know because Anna told me about this, she did this amazing creative exercise called the artist way. And I wanted her to share about her practice and what she learned through it and a little bit about it.
Julia Cameron wrote this beautiful book and created this program that's called The Artist Way. It's a 12-week program with various exercises and tasks. The basics is to write 3 pages every morning before you start doing anything of your free flow thoughts without any judgment. With this practice, you get into the habit of listening to yourself. You get into the habit of giving yourself space to express not just your thoughts, but your emotions, to process what you're going through in your life. One thing that I want to mention, I've gone through the program a few times, but I was never able to do 3 pages every morning because 3 pages I think would take me around an hour. And very honestly, I don't think that we have an hour for just journaling in the morning. So this is what I want to remind you, even when you hear us or hear someone else talk about some exercises to fit into your day, do what works for you. Make these exercises to work for you, for your life. For example, for me, I did 1 page each morning. You create a new routine. You don't take your phone into your hands in the morning, and you don't start your day by taking in something from the external world, but you are starting from your internal world and expressing it yourself. So this is a huge change in your days and in your lives. That's why I loved it. Approach it in whatever way that makes sense for you and for your life right now. But I'm sure once you start writing regularly, you create a space for your inner world to show up more. Have you ever tried the artist way or the morning pages?
I sure have. Can I say I did it successfully? No way. And that's okay. I didn't devote too much time in the morning like you shared from your experience. I was more focused on just getting it out the first thing in the morning. I know, just like Yana said, our first instinct in the morning for many of us is to grab our phone. So you get up, you grab your phone. If you're using other people's agenda, you're looking at other people's feed, you're feeding that into your brain. You're not really taking the time to reflect what's happening inside. And even though you just woke up, you want to have that space for yourself. So what I loved whenever I started working on the artist way, yes, I did get the 3 pages and I'm completely fine with that. But what I learned is I picked up on patterns. I learned a little bit more about myself. I learned what kind of thoughts I woke up with. I learned about things that maybe happened yesterday or 2 days ago that could still be bothering me. And I didn't take that opportunity to process them fully. Sometimes I do write on my sticky note to process it later. Sometimes you need to reprocess it a few times. Why is this still relevant, or why is this still hanging on? But I think just getting in the habit of it and going through the emotions and letting it all cycle, you learn so much more about yourself. The experience overall was great, even though I didn't do the whole 3 months, and that's okay too. I think just figuring out what works for you is the most important thing about journaling.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think are some of the misconceptions about journaling?
I think that one is that it's too simple to work. The other thing is that you need profound thoughts and a beautiful journal, and that this needs to be a ritual. I don't think that any of this is needed. This is mostly what's journaling about, is to look inside and give yourself some space to express yourself freely, without judgment, without anyone else looking at it, without censoring yourself. That's what's most important, to express yourself freely and to give yourself time and space to give your thoughts and emotions, give them some shape and form to help you decrease your mental load. So yeah, I think that the misconceptions are mostly that it's too simple to work, but it is scientifically proven that it does help. Mostly, for example, the practices that you've already mentioned, like gratitude journaling and free expression journaling, where you really just express yourself freely. And the other misconception is that you need a lot of time or some fancy routine, but this is really not needed. Any misconceptions that come to your mind?
Yes, and you touched on the major ones. You don't need a fancy journal. You don't need a feather pen or any type of like specific marker. I know sometimes we could get in our heads about this because whenever we're creating new habits or new routines, we think it's super important that we have all the right elements. Honestly, like throughout this discussion, we already know whatever works best for you. I'm not saying don't experiment. Please feel free to experiment. I experimented with bullet journaling. That was a practice that was recommended by my brother. It works best for him. I tried it. I couldn't keep up with it. You have to journal for a specific prompt. Yes, you can use those as guides, but this is your world. You can shape it any way that you want. You can write anything that you want. And honestly, if you don't want other people reading, I'm totally fine with that. There's a shredder. There's digital stuff. There's lock pads that you can have on your phone. Don't worry about that. I think this is more for you. It's a self-discovery process. So the other misconception I think is that you have to do it every day. Would it be preferred? Absolutely. Just because you did it for 4 days and then you stop for a day, you don't have to restart the cycle. Think about it as more like add-on or bonuses, because you will learn as you do it more and more. You're like, ooh, I actually like this, or oh, I'm learning more about myself, or ooh, I thought I needed 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour. I could do this in 5 minutes. Jana, do you have any prompts that you absolutely love or go by?
Start with a question: what will this look like if it were easy? This is one of my questions that saves me time and time again. Then I have a few questions that I like to come back to that help me reduce overwhelm. What is the one next step that I can take right here, right now, with the energy that I currently have, with the time that I currently have? And so, what will the next step look like? A few prompts that can help you when you are doubting yourself, when you hear the voice of your inner critic. There, you can challenge those thoughts. You can challenge your recurring thoughts. What is the root for this inner critic? How did it start? Why did it start? Even whose voice it is? Why did you start to think this way or have this thought? So, to challenge it a little bit. Is it true? Is it absolutely true? These are questions from Katie Byron. You can even Google some journaling prompts and choose the one that resonates with you.
That triggers a memory for one of the frameworks that I learned through one of the programs, and we talked about the think framework. So T for is it true, H for is it helpful, I is it for inspiring, N is it necessary, and K is it kind. And I think that helps relate and helps you process what you write down. If you just leave it in your mind, you honestly, it's just going to circle. It's like a wheel. It's going to keep repeating and just drain your overall energy. Well, this one is specifically for you. Since you've been on the burnout journey, how can someone use it for burnout recovery journaling?
This is a great question. And what you've also mentioned in one of your responses earlier is that journaling helps you see patterns. It's like holding up a mirror to your mind. You begin to notice the stories that you tell yourself. You begin to notice the words that you repeat. You begin to see the beliefs that shape your days. This also helps with burnout recovery. Once you start to look inside, to give yourself this space, you will find these patterns more easily. Once you see patterns, then you see triggers. Once you notice triggers in real time, you can create this post to respond differently. This is a beautiful tool to dive deeper into why these things are happening. With this awareness, you can start to reframe your thoughts. You can start to reframe even these patterns. It helps you replace self-criticism with understanding, and it helps you replace confusion with self-trust. And there's more, like when you write about what you're grateful for, or when you reflect on the good moments in your day, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the same chemicals that lift your mood and help you feel grounded. And over time, you train your mind to notice what's good instead of only what's missing. So this helps with burnout because we are exhausted and we need to find the little pieces of energy that we can, so we can function better. Journaling isn't just about recording your life, but it's about regulating your emotions, reshaping your thoughts, and reconnecting with yourself. This is a deeply human practice. If you've been meaning to start, today's the day. You can easily start with one sentence: what's on my mind right now. And this is already enough to begin with.
I don't think I need to add anything, except I do want to remind everyone that gratitude practice goes a long way, because how you set yourself up for the day is how you'll carry yourself throughout the day.
This is a nice reminder why morning journaling is such a helpful practice, because in the morning you might be stressed about your days, or you might be unsure how it will all fit together. You always managed even the worst days, right? You managed everything that you've gone throughout your life. But when you're journaling in the morning and you create this even 5 minutes for a busy day, what I do when I have very busy days and I want to fit in journaling in the morning, I just set intention for the day. Because I'm already a little stressed. I know that a busy day is coming, I might be traveling or something else is coming up. So the only thing that I journal is I set up an intention for the days that's coming. And that always helps, and that helps me create this different view for the day that's coming, and that might be a little stressful, but you can always shift your perspective with a little intention that you set in advance.
All right. Anything else that we want to add?
Journaling practices benefit mental health through psychological mechanisms of improved emotional processing, cognitive restructuring, and enhanced self-regulation achieved by focusing on positive experiences and reframing negative thoughts. When we were looking at the studies that were done on journaling, these journaling interventions, including expressive writing, gratitude journaling, and other types of journaling, demonstrate measurable benefits for mental health. In studies involving diverse populations, expressive writing yielded modest improvements in depression, anxiety, and stress levels. And with gratitude-focused practices, produced reductions in depressive symptoms and stress. This is just to show you that many studies were done on why journaling is such an effective practice. It's not just actionable and tangible and easy to use for everyone, that's why we are sharing it, but it's also proven that it helps with your mental well-being.
Perfect. As we're starting to wrap up, is there another type of journaling that you would like to discuss?
I think we've covered free-form journaling, using journaling prompts, gratitude journaling, which is scientifically proven to be very helpful for your mental well-being. But one that we haven't yet mentioned is the expressive journaling. If you're processing something heavy or emotional, you can try this form of journaling, which is called expressive journaling. Write about what happened, how it made you feel, and what it means to you now. because research shows that this kind of writing actually calms the body and helps integrate these experiences. You literally help your brain find order in this emotional noise. And again, we just want to remind you that no one's going to read it. If you feel better, you can shred it or even throw it into a fire to destroy the evidence, but this is for you to process these things that are happening in your life and to reduce either the mental load or this emotional load.
Thank you so much. As you have heard throughout this discussion, there's different types of journaling, and keep in mind, you don't have to be tied to just one. Choose what works best for you in the moment. If you're lack of time, just write it down. If you have more time, you can block out the time, go into deep reflection. We wanted to start off with journaling because we think it's important and it's a space for you to actually pause and to reflect. And that's exactly what we wanted to do in these episodes and give you different tools and different mechanisms for you to be able to pause.
Whether it's a few messy lines or a page of reflection, remember, journaling is simply a conversation with yourself. There's no right, no wrong way to do it. And all that matters is that you pause long enough to listen and to write. Karolina, do you have any final thoughts on journaling?
Just journal however you do it, whether it's digital. I know we're in a digital world. I still like the pen and paper technique. You don't have to do it every day. If you do, great. If you don't, that's great too. It's whatever works for your current season and your lifestyle. What about you, Jana? Any last words?
Beautiful reminder. And before we end, I'd love to leave you with a small invitation. When this episode finishes, take just 2 quiet minutes. Open your notebook or even the notes app on your phone and write down 3 words that describe how you feel right now. Don't overthink it, just notice what's there. Then, if you'd like, add one small thing that you're grateful for today. It could be a person, a sound, a moment, anything. Anything that brings you a little bit of peace. And that's enough. Because every time you pause like this to name what's real, to see what's good, you build a small bridge back to yourself. And thank you for taking this moment to pause with us. And until next time, take gentle care.